What is really happening in Libya today? And why does the name Gaddafi still resonate so strongly more than a decade later? Is the return of Muammar Gaddafi's sons to the political scene merely symbolic, or are there much deeper strategic interests at play? To understand what we are seeing now, we need to go back to the beginning, analyzing every decision, every alliance, and every conflict that shaped modern Libya. According to The Guardian, Saif Gaddafi, Muammar's son, was always seen as someone prepared to take power with strong international influence. But was his involvement with foreign governments motivated solely by a desire to keep the family in control? Or is there something bigger, involving natural resources and geopolitical negotiations hidden behind the headlines? After the first minute, to understand how we reached today's situation, we need to go back to 2003, when Muammar Gaddafi signed agreements with Western countries, marking a shift from Libya's isolation, according to the BBC. These agreements opened doors for investments but also drew the attention of Washington and other powers to closely monitor what was happening with the country's resources, especially oil and gas. Between 2011 and 2021, Libya went through intense conflicts, coups, and power shifts, creating a vacuum that allowed figures like Saadi Gaddafi to reposition themselves. ABC News reports that Saadi was released in 2021, and there are signs that he intends to play a decisive role in the upcoming presidential elections, a move that, according to Al Jazeera, cannot be seen merely as a family dispute, but as a strategic point of influence within the country and in North Africa. But why now, exactly? The New York Times points out that Saadi's return coincides with a phase where external actors are closely watching control over energy routes and military alliances in the region. Is Washington and the European Union observing this return purely diplomatically? Or is there a silent race to secure support and favors before any political decision is made in Tripoli? More importantly, what will be the consequences for the African Union and neighboring countries if the Gaddafi family manages to consolidate any power again? The complexity of modern Libya is not just about names or titles. It is deeply rooted in historical disputes, economic interests, and international alliances that still dictate who truly holds influence. Every gesture, statement, and military movement must be questioned. Who actually benefits from this, and who is manipulating the background to secure strategic advantages? This is just the beginning of our investigation into Libya, a story that has unfolded over decades and still holds secrets that few dare to examine closely. To understand Libya's current situation, we need to dive even deeper into the country's history, especially during Muammar Gaddafi's era. He came to power in 1969 after a military coup and quickly implemented policies aimed at transforming Libya into a self-sufficient and independent state, directly controlling the country's oil production and natural resources. According to the BBC, Gaddafi believed that controlling these resources was essential not only for strengthening Libya internally, but also for increasing his influence across Africa and on the international stage. But was his vision of independence seen as a threat by Washington and European capitals? And if so, to what extent were these external powers willing to intervene to protect their strategic interests? Between the 1970s and 1990s, Gaddafi began financing allied movements and governments, creating networks of influence that extended throughout Africa and beyond. As reported by The Guardian, he also sought to create a more autonomous African bloc, using the country's gold and resources to consolidate alliances. However, these actions generated constant tensions with the United States, the European Union, and some African countries that felt marginalized. By the early 2000s, Libya began to change its international stance. According to the BBC, in 2003, Gaddafi signed disarmament and cooperation agreements with Western countries, aiming to normalize relations after decades of economic and diplomatic sanctions. But was this shift genuine, or a strategy to buy time and strengthen his internal position? And how did this influence Washington and Brussels' perception of Libya? Between 2011 and 2021, the country plunged into a period of conflict and chaos, and Muammar Gaddafi's death opened a power vacuum that turned Libya into a battleground among militias, foreign interests, and ambitious internal actors. Al Jazeera highlights that Saudi Gaddafi's release in 2021 is not merely symbolic. It represents the possibility of reorganizing power and political influence in the country. But what are the real interests behind this return? Is it only the desire to restore the Gaddafi family name? Or are there strategic moves involving energy, trade routes, and military alliances that few notice? Every step of this puzzle must be carefully analyzed because what appears to be a family dispute may, in fact, be at the center of a much larger geopolitical race, involving Washington, the European Union, and African actors with clear interests in controlling Libya and its resources. This is the point where we begin connecting the past to the present, understanding that every political gesture carries hidden layers of motivation. As we move closer to the present, it becomes clear that the Gaddafi family's return is more than a mere personal or national issue. It has regional and international implications. According to The Guardian, Saif and Saudi Gaddafi have maintained networks and relationships with political and military actors across Africa and the Middle East, and these connections could be leveraged to influence elections, control key resources, and shift alliances. But why now? Why has 2021 become the turning point for their political reemergence? ABC News reports that Saudi's release coincided with increased instability in Tripoli and growing dissatisfaction among rival factions, suggesting that timing was crucial. Could this have been orchestrated by internal power brokers, or even influenced by external actors monitoring Libya's strategic position in North Africa? We must ask, how much of this is the Gaddafi family asserting their own power, and how much is part of a larger chessboard, with Washington, the European Union, and regional African governments positioning themselves to protect their interests? The New York Times highlights that energy corridors, particularly oil and gas exports, remain a central concern. Control over these resources translates into political leverage, not only within Libya, but also across the continent, impacting alliances within the African Union. Al Jazeera emphasizes that Saudi's possible candidacy in upcoming elections is not just about returning to power. It could redefine Libya's alignment with foreign actors and alter the balance of influence across the Sahel and Mediterranean regions. Each move made by the Gaddafi family needs to be analyzed through the lens of geopolitical strategy. Who benefits if Saudi or Saif consolidates political influence? Who loses? And what hidden agreements, promises, or threats lie beneath the surface of public statements? Every handshake, every public appearance, every military maneuver carries a story of power, money, and influence. This is the ongoing investigation into Libya, a nation where history, resources, and geopolitics intersect in ways that remain largely invisible to the public, but are critical for understanding who truly controls the fate of the country and its people. To fully grasp the stakes, we need to examine the international reactions to the Gaddafi family's return. Washington has closely monitored developments in Libya, aware that any consolidation of power by Saudi or Saif could challenge U.S. influence over North African energy and security dynamics. According to The Guardian, there have been discreet diplomatic communications aimed at understanding the intentions of the Gaddafi sons and the potential ripple effects across the region. Meanwhile, the European Union remains concerned about migration routes, arms trafficking, and the stability of Mediterranean trade, factors that could be directly impacted if Libya experiences renewed internal centralization of power under the Gaddafi legacy. But how do regional African powers view this resurgence? The African Union has historically called for stabilization and unity, yet the reality is that individual member states often have competing interests in Libyan affairs. ABC News highlights that some countries see the Gaddafi network as a potential partner to secure trade routes and energy cooperation, while others fear it could shift the balance of influence away from emerging local alliances. What motivates these countries? Economic gain, political leverage, or long-term security? According to Al Jazeera, the timing of Saudi's release and the growing discourse about elections suggests that multiple actors are calculating not only who holds domestic power, but also who can be an effective conduit for international interests. The New York Times points out that Saudi and Saif have both cultivated relationships that extend beyond Libya, engaging with foreign businessmen, military advisors, and political operatives who could be pivotal in shaping outcomes behind the scenes. This raises critical questions. Are the Gaddafi sons merely leveraging the family legacy, or are they part of a larger strategy influenced by external actors to realign regional power structures? Each development, each negotiation, and each alliance must be scrutinized to understand who is maneuvering, who is observing, and ultimately, who stands to gain the most from Libya's uncertain future. As we trace these threads, the picture that emerges is one of a country at the center of a complex geopolitical web, where internal ambition and external strategy intersect in ways that will determine the fate of not just Libya, but the entire region.